Namaste, namaskaram, vanakkam, namo namaha, jai Ganesha. Please visit our website at classicalyoga.org, and there's a donate button there if you'd like to help us out. Ganesha's inside of my head. As a Hindu, Ganesha should be your best friend. When we look at our devatas, you may have an intimate experience. You may look at them as pure symbolism or just as artwork. It's up to you. But the profound symbolism and the meaning behind that should really permeate your life as a Hindu. So when we look at Ganesha, and we've done many podcasts on this, and we just celebrated our wonderful Ganesha Chaturthi. When we look at all the symbolic wisdom of Ganesha, we can clearly see that these are qualities that we should incorporate into our life. Animal, human, divine, strong, flexible, sensitive, all the sweetness of life is at hand, seeking humility, listening to words of wisdom, listening to the inner voice, being content as big belly, 1 foot in the world, 1 foot in the spirit. Appreciate the Atmana, the spirit that flows through all things, even the creatures, little mushika. And Ganesha's 5 koshas, the beautiful Ganesha Pancharatnam, the Annamaya kosha, the Pranamaya kosha, Manamaya kosha, Vyanamaya kosha, and Annamaya kosha. Ganesha's 5 Shaktis of harmony with family, friends, business, culture, divine. You can visit our podcast as we go into more detail on the beautiful wisdom of Ganesha. But here's something that's quite amazing. Let's look at our human brain. Obviously now with technology, we can clearly see what the brain looks like. And this is jaw-dropping. It's actually kind of gross looking. Whether you look at it from above or below, it's a mass of convoluted fissures, wrinkly, gray, and especially from the underside, the ventral side, it's kind of yucky looking. And just think of that. And then think that all of our life experiences, all of the things that we see and dream and imagine and subsequently create, it's all coming out of that mind. But yet what's even more amazing is, of course, in the Hindu Yoga Dharma, we always analogize the mind to the moon. The moon has no light of its own, does it? It merely is a reflector of the sun, El Sol. So too, our mind is merely a reflector of El Sol. Of course, as Hindus, we use the proper term Atmana, which is very different actually than the Christian understanding of soul and spirit, though sometimes we use those words as the incorporeal part of our being, but for accuracy, we really need to use the Sanskrit Hindu word Atmana. So go figure, within that kind of gross-looking organ of the brain itself, all of this magic of creation and thought and imagination and dreaming comes about. If that doesn't cause one to reflect on the magical mystery that is life, But here's something quite amazing. And again, we want to incorporate, and we do in life, we incorporate the qualities that we find most suitable to get us through our incarnation. And certainly at one point, most humans figure out that assuming more positive, healthy, uplifting qualities make for a better life, rather than doing the opposite, which we're all guilty of. But if we look at the ventral view of the brain, which is the underside of the brain, as if you were looking up into the top of your head. So now with technology, we can see that, and it's quite amazing, and this was pointed out in other literature on the Vedas, that if you look up at the ventral view, you can actually see the shape of an elephant's head there, with the head and the ears and the trunk. It's really quite astounding. So let's try to look at that and the wisdom of Ganesha, which is, of course, the first deity that all Hindus beseech because of his primal foundational wisdom. Without a good foundation, we really won't be successful in life. It gives us nothing to rise up from and to safely come back to. That's why Ganesha is always the first deity beseeched in Hinduism. And then one goes to the other deities. He's often called the gatekeeper as he opens the gate. In other words, with a good foundation, then we can go deeper. But if we look at the symbolism of Ganesha's trunk, and if you look at this ventral view, the trunk is actually the medulla, which connects to the spine. And we use the symbolism of Ganesha's trunk to remind us to be strong and flexible and sensitive in life. And then all the sweetness of life is at hand, the laddu that he holds, the modaka. Modakaratamodakam sadavi mukti sarakam. Being strong, flexible, and sensitive will make life sweet. Because just think of the opposite. Being weak, inflexible, insensitive makes life sour for us and for those around us. So being strong and flexible and sensitive is a lifetime journey of learning control, restraint, yama. The first step of Astanga Yoga, of the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali, which unfortunately has been so distorted beyond recognition almost. And this is essentially karma yoga, kri, work. Learning to do the right thing. Karma yoga are the Hindu understanding of ethics and selfless service. And it is the medulla that is responsible for control. Control of the breath, blood pressure, and the heartbeat. Karma yoga. Amazing similarity. And looking at the elephant's trunk, when the elephant's trunk is hanging straight down, it's like the spine itself. And yet, there's an empty space in the middle of that trunk, isn't there? That sucks up the water, sucks up the Shakti, the inner essence of the Shushmana, the spine itself. This is the Kundalini, that primal Shakti force that rises up the spine, within the spine. Just like the elephant's trunk with its powerful central core. So now from the medulla, we look at the eyes, if you will, and these are two of the trigeminal nerve currents. And there's 12 of these sensory trigeminal nerves within the cranium. And they all have to do with our senses of smell and taste and sight and touch and hearing. And they kind of radiate around the medulla. So you could look at that as the eyes of Ganesha, and then radiating out around the trunk and are the tusks. And what did Ganesha's tusk remind us? His one broken tusk reminds us to be dedicated, as he broke his tusk, to continue writing the Vedas. And also humility. Humility is wisdom. Humility is understanding. Learning to deal with our five senses. This is how we interact with the world. Granaja, rasa, chaksusa, sparana, shrautra. Smell, taste, sight, touch, hearing. And the five elements. Bhumi, udaka, agni, vayu, akasha, earth, water, fire, air, ether. And it is the trigeminal nerves. They are the sensory nerves of the body. They've all been mapped out. All the different nerves for smell and taste and sight and touch. So now we go to the pons, or the head. If you look at this ventral view, you can see a large elephant's head there. This is really Raja Yoga. What is Raja Yoga? After being established in Karma Yoga, the medulla, in Bhakti Yoga, the trigeminal senses, because it is in Bhakti Yoga that we assault the senses in a puja. If you've ever been to a puja, you know what it's like. You smell the agarbatti. You see all the beautiful colors and deities and clothing. You see the arti. You feel touched. You touch things. You touch the sacred substances, and you feel touched from the inside. And hearing, you listen to the Ganta and the bhajans and the kirtan and the many, many mantras. Bhakti Yoga, Puja, Sandhya, Havan, Agnihotra, all assaults the senses. Bhakti Yoga. Which then, with a foundation of Karma Yoga, Hindu ethics and selfless service, and Bhakti Yoga, Hindu devotions, this now paves the way for successful contemplations Remember, meditation simply means to concentrate, and it's an English word. Concentrate on what? Contemplation, the English word, denotes we're contemplating on things spiritual, if you will, the inner spirit. Being absorbed. And in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali references this area of Raja Yoga meditation, dharana, limiting the field of your mind, desabandhas chittasya dharana, which will lead to the state of dhyana or absorption, prayatna ekatanata, one continuous dance of absorption, meaning that now this is kind of the accomplishment of the life of karma yoga and bhakti yoga. Now one becomes or enters into a conscious flow, an inner dance of consciousness. And it is actually the pons that is responsible for the unconscious functions of the body, muscle memory. Think, for example, when you first learn to do something, it takes a lot of concentration until it becomes a flow. Watch someone adroit at playing the piano, for example. It looks effortless to them. They can even smile and not even look at the keys. But what you don't see are the years, the decades of concerted practice, learning the fingering, learning the notes, learning how to read the music, the timing, until it becomes dhyana, absorption, a constant flow. Pratyaya ekatanata, one continual dance of consciousness. This is the pons area, which is the elephant's head. So looking at this ventral view of the brain, around the pons, around the medulla, we see what look like elephant ears surrounding that. And what are the ears for in Ganesha? To remind us to listen to the inner wisdom. And what is our ear for? Our ear is where we maintain balance. And this is the purpose of the cerebellum, to maintain balance. This is Gyan Yoga, when now we have learned, by living a Hindu life of karma, bhakti, raja, to jnana, we learn to have a balanced life, neither falling flat on either extreme. But this is a lifetime effort. And even when we maintain that balance, we often lose balance. I always look to the wonderful discipline of gymnastics when the girls stand on that 4-inch balance beam and they spend their career trying to get one perfect routine. Many times falling, many times shifting from side to side until they maintain that perfect balance. This is the life journey. And actually, things in life are designed to throw us off balance, to see how strong we are, to see how much courage we have, fortitude to get back on balance. Any good teacher will actually do this, not only in the religious realm, but also obviously in the secular realm. A good coach will help push his students off balance so they regain balance again. Balance is life. As the classic words of Mr. Miyagi, whole life balance. Go find the balance, Daniel-san. Balance, balance, balance. This is the bhajan we sing to Mahadev Shiva. Sada lolahara nama shivaya. The truth, sada, of the swing of life. As we go from one thing to another, one extreme often to another, until we, like the teeter-totter, find balance in the middle. And note, to find that balance, we have necessarily been on each side. We've been from one extreme to the other. In the religious realm of life, this often plays out in being a stern fundamentalist, one extreme, to the other extreme of being a kind of open-minded, too open-minded, New Age universalist. As they often say, the fundamentalist has a totally closed mind, and the universalist, their mind is so open that their brains fall out. Both are extremes, obviously. We find this in the New Age movement, the spurious yoga movement. It's very the extreme, and it's understandable because most of these people have been raised in a fundamentalist country or fundamentalist mindset, fundamentalist family, and they rebel against it. Of course they do. And vice versa. Some were raised in a very open, New Agey kind of universal mindset, like the hippie generation, and then maybe their kids go to the other extreme and become Christian fundamentalist or of another religion. This is the life journey as we go from one extreme to the other until we eventually find balance. This is Ganesha's ears, learning to listen now to the wisdom that lies within. By living the life of wisdom that's all around us. So now let's go up top and look at the dorsal view of the brain, looking from the top down. This is the most typical one that we see. And what does it look like? Does it not look like a pecan or pecan, depending on where you come from? We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But here we see something. We see a dividing line in the middle. That's the corpus callosum, which connects the two hemispheres of the brain. And this is an area that obviously in neurology they explore, but we've always explored this in Hinduism. This is part of our Raja Yoga understanding and training as we seek within to understand these two hemispheres, which actually we call the Pingala and the Ida, the left brain and the right brain respectively. And we understand that the left brain controls the right side of the body and vice versa. The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. It's this wonderful diagonal flow, which is the way you walk. You walk in a diagonal pattern. And it is this diagonal flow that creates the balance, the harmony. And we go in depth as understanding the two hemispheres of the brain, the masculine and the feminine, if you will. And this transcends gender. Though, as a man or a woman, we generally display more of one of these qualities than the other. But it's interesting, and we've done podcasts on this. You can revisit those. We'll go over it a little bit briefly. But the left brain is the masculine brain, and there's a positive and negative to it. These are inspirational qualities to attain to, and also obviously states of mind, states of consciousness. So we want to be positively masculine, no matter if we're a man or a woman, and be analytical and logical and rational and thinking area. It's actually the religious area with rules and regulations and rituals. And avoid the negative masculine qualities, whether we're a man or woman. Those of being hard and crude and mean and intolerant, religious fundamentalism. And then, whether we're a man or a woman in this incarnation, we want to be positively feminine in the right brain and be soft at times and intuitive and gentle and creative. And this is actually the more spiritual, if you will. It gets into the incorporeal part, the feeling nature. Note that we need both hemispheres of the brain. So truly, it's always religion/spirituality, religion/spirituality, analytical/spontaneous. And we want to avoid the negative feminine qualities, whether we're a man or a woman, of being cold and indifferent, erratic emotional highs and lows, depression, anxiety. And it's clear, just on a little reflection, that whether we are a man or a woman, we've all experienced the positives and the negatives of both hemispheres. Obviously, with a little thought, a balanced life is being, when necessary, analytical, logical, rational, thinking area, rules, regulations, rituals, patterns, and also soft and spontaneous, intuition, creative, spiritual. This is a balanced life. And actually, the life journey is teaching us these things. Through cause and effect, through the law of karma, through all of our actions and interactions, we're learning how to act and react from children on. It's a lifelong journey. And what's happening as we do this, it's also developing this connective tissue called the corpus callosum. And a wonderful thing, a wonderful way, among many, to help bring this harmonization and create a strong corpus callosum is music. And not just playing music or singing music, but actually be able to analyze it and read music, because then you're using both left and right brain. And it's interesting that this used to be, not so much anymore, but it used to be a requirement. When children went to school, they learned some form of a musical instrument, and to read it and to play it. This harmonizes left and right brain. Whether people knew this is what was happening or not, this seems to be inherent in the human consciousness, to strive for this balance. That's why we sing that song to Shiva, Sada Lo Lahara. It is the truth of the swing of life, finding this balance, because this swing does destroy Hara, our ignorance, and eventually gives us the state of enlightenment. And that's not a kooky term. Just think about it. In light, we're meant to be. In other words, illumination from within. Inner states of epiphanies, revelations, when the light bulb goes off in the head and we realize things, inventors, creativity. This all comes from uncovering the inner light that is actually our Atmana. Remember, in our core, we are that Tattvamasi, the Atmana of love and light and energy, Jyoti Shakti Ananda Shanti, with a body, mind, and emotions. It's animating the body, mind, emotions. But see, this is where it's different than the Christian understanding of the soul or the spirit. The Atmana is also separate because it does leave the physical body. Sometimes in out-of-body experiences, but certainly at physical death, it's separate. But yet, while we are living, it is influencing, it is animating. This is where the Christians look at the soul as the animating part that is also the physical body. We agree with that. It's animating the body, mind, emotions, but it's also separate. It can transcend them. This is why we call it the Atmana, which means not your mind, thank goodness. So again, when we look at the dorsal view of the brain, it does look like a pecan or pecan. And very interestingly, pecan is actually an Algonquin name, a Native American Indian name. And it means that which needs to be cracked with a hard object like a rock. This is very interesting, taking us full circle back to Ganapati. Ganesha can also be represented, if we don't have a murti, an image of Ganesha, by a coconut on a kalasam with 5 mango leaves. The coconut is always synonymous with Ganesha. One reason it has 3 eyes, just like we too have 3 eyes, the 2 material eyes and the inner eye, the third eye, the bindi, the mark of the Hindu. Remember from the Vedas, Puram Bindu Vajri Purush Tutaha. Ancient Bindu Hindu, soulful warrior, the bindi, the mark of the Hindu. And the coconut is just amazing part of creation. There's so many uses of the palm tree and the coconut. And if we just look at the coconut, it has a rough, we're talking about the ripe coconut now. Now, many of you may not know, but the ripe coconuts are not the ones that you drink. That water is really just discarded. That'll cause stomach upset, actually, and constipation. The water that we drink is from the green coconut, which has a jelly in it. When they become mature, that's where we get the white meat on the inside that's grated for coconut, which can also be used for cooking oil, oil to light our diyas, oil to rub on your skin. So many uses for the coconut. But what does it take to crack that nut? This is the whole secret, right? What does it take to crack that hard ego that we have? We don't want to get rid of our ego. We want to soften it up, make it our best friend instead of our worst enemy. Crack our ignorance as we go from asato ma sadgamaya, from our ignorance to the enlightened state, or more. It's an ongoing process, which we're all destined to do, obviously. So this is where the religious lifestyle comes into play. Remember, we follow the Hindu, yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific, philosophical lifestyle. It's all of those things. Don't separate any of them out. It's all of those things. It is a lifestyle. It's a specific lifestyle. It's the Hindu lifestyle of karma, bhakti, raja, jnana, hatha, mantra, japa, nara, nata, kundalini. So this is where the effort comes in, as in anything in life. To achieve success, we have to work hard at it. So in this case, to realize in the sense, the white meat that's inside of the coconut, we have to crack that hard outer shell. We have to, like the pecan, the brain itself, we have to crack through the illusions that have been taught to us through osmosis, perhaps. Illusions that we have created, self-created illusions. This is our Hindu concept of Maya, which is the world of appearance. It's not that it's not real, but it's temporary. It's very real while we're going through it. Don't be fooled by that. It's not an illusion. Right? When you stick your finger in a fire, that's not an illusion. It hurts. But it's temporary, obviously. That's what Maya means. It's just simply temporary. So everything actually is temporary that we're going through. So we want to do our best to get through this life and take it seriously, but not too seriously, as we crack the coconut, crack through into the reality of who we truly are as the Atmana. The essence of all, really. Animal, human. This Jyoti Shakti Ananda Shanti, this love and light and energy. It's actually the science. It's pure energy. It's sound energy. It's light energy. It's heat energy. This translates into the human feeling of love. Hence, we define our Atmana as love and light and energy. Jyoti Shakti Ananda Shanti, with a body, mind, and emotions. So just as those of other religions have chosen their methodologies, their deities, to be an intimate part of their life, as a Hindu, I've chosen Ganesha to live inside of my head. Does Ganesha live inside of your head? Namaste. Jai Mahaganapati.